Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news, and we've got a big show tonight, guys. We've got a big show tonight. An awful lot of breaking news in the past maybe 24 to 48 hours in relation to Manchester United. Deals getting done early, a lot of links with big players, some young players from South America United being linked with again. We've got an awful lot to talk about. Of course, we're going to talk about Cunha, guys. It looks to be speeding up and United look to be wanting that deal done ASAP, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Victor Osimhen. A lot of reports coming out from Italy and from Africa, South Africa, or Africa in general. Apologies if I don't know whereabouts they are in relation to Osimhen. And supposedly he's got terms agreed with Manchester United. And some of the English media are now starting to report this as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well, guys. And we have been linked as well with the young Franco Mastantuono. If I pronounced that right or wrong, I don't know. But Mastantuono out of River Plate in Argentina, guys. 17 years of age, world-class talent, and it's coming out from a tier 1 journalist in South America, one of the best journalists in all of South America, not just Argentina, so we'll talk about him as well. We've got plenty to talk about, guys. Smash a like on the video if you haven't done so already. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. Get on the gravy train because it's going to be a busy few months as a Manchester United fan. And of course, the most important thing, get your comments in. I want to know your thoughts on everything we are going to discuss. Who have we got? What members are in the chat? Young Sauce is there. Finn is in as well. We've got Leia the Queen. Leia, your queen. My apologies, not the queen, your queen in the chat as well. Good to see you guys. What are we saying here? Would be a coup bagging Cunha, says Finn. Leila says, evening Jack, Costa, goalkeeper, Cunha, Osimhen, Frimpong and Henderson would be my dream window. Wouldn't it be all of our dream windows, Leila? Yeah, but look, again, how much of that can Manchester United actually get done remains to be seen. But early signs look good. Early signs look good. We're already making moves in relation to the transfer window. But we're going to jump straight into it, guys. And we're going to talk about the big news coming out over the last few days in relation to transfers for Manchester United. And it's in relation to this fella right here, Matheus Cunha. Now, we know that Manchester United have been linked with him for a long time now. And, we are in the market for a number 10, and we're looking to improve not only that position but a number of different areas. And look, we heard reports suggesting that Champions League football was not key for this guy to potentially sign for Manchester United, and that opened everybody's eyes. He seems to be a Manchester United fan, and then we seen on the weekend after we played Wolves, Casemiro was over with him at the end of the game. Obviously they're both Brazilian. He was having a chat with him. And Bruno Fernandes was there as well. He kind of came over, gave him a hug, so on and so forth. And we also seen Ruben Amorim speak with him and put his arm around him quite a bit. And I think it was done at Molineux as well, not just at Old Trafford, in both games. So he is obviously well liked at Manchester United, and he is going to be sought after in the summer. Now, Laurie Whitwell, and we're talking tier 1 journalists now, guys, as well, that have been reporting this. Laurie Whitwell has said that Manchester United have held positive contract talks on Matheus Cunha. Wolves want 62.5 million release clause paid in full, but open to instalments. So then they don't really. So he's kind of going back on what he says initially. Ruben Amorim plus Manchester United executives are aligned on the target for the number 10 position. And again, look, we know that this number 10 position is vitally important in terms of improving. We're going to have players moving on in the summer. We're going to move on. Christian Eriksen, his contract is up. He's definitely going to go. Are we talking about maybe moving on a Mason Mount? Are we talking about moving on even a Kobbie Mainoo? There's been some reports about that. The latter I definitely don't want moved on. So we know the number 10 is going to be a position that United are going to try and improve in the summer. And do you know what? This guy fits the bill, in my opinion. He's got 16 goals this season, guys, in 31 games for Wolves. I think it's 16 anyway, something like that anyway, in around 16 goals. And a really good return. And I like him. I've got to say, straight off the bat, I like him. I like his attitude. I like his grit, determination, work rate. And I like the fact that he's a little bit of a maverick, if I'm being quite honest with you. And again, I've been hearing it on social media today, and obviously the reel that I done earlier on Instagram, that bad attitude and, are United ever going to learn their lesson? And I don't really agree with it, to be honest with you. I think this guy is different. This guy is not coming specifically for money. He's not coming specifically for prestige. He's coming to prove a point for himself. He wants to take the next step. And a lot of people will say, well, the next step, of course, is from 15th in the Premier League, where Wolves are, to 14th, where United are. And yeah, great one. But we know what we're talking about here. This guy, I think, is a Manchester United fan more than anything else. And again, it's exciting. It really, really is exciting. And it hasn't just been Laurie Whitwell that's been speaking about it. Fabrizio Romano has also said Manchester United are leading the race to sign Matheus Cunha from Wolves as negotiations are ongoing. Personal terms are being discussed as Man United are aware of more clubs keen. Plus 62.5 million release clause available. Good feelings after initial contract talks between Cunha and Manchester United. Now, let's talk about the £62.5 million release clause, because that was just put into his contract last summer. He signed a 1-year extension last summer, and it was basically just to get this into the deal, into his contract. And again, number of reports coming out. Fabrizio Romano has spoken about it, and Laurie Whitwell as well in The Athletic, and they have both said that, of course, Wolves are open to negotiations around the release clause. Basically meaning it doesn't have to be paid in full. Now, we seen last year with Xerxes, I thought it was Ugarte, but it wasn't Ugarte, it was actually Xerxes, where his release clause last year, United actually paid more for him than his release clause required, and it meant you're allowed to spread the payments out. And I think that's vitally important for Manchester United this summer. I really, really do. If we pay more than 62.5 million for him, I mean, is it money well spent? You never know. You never know until a player comes in, hits the ground, and inevitably when they leave in, whether it be 2 years, 6 years, 10 years, you will only ever find out then whether it was actually worth it or not. Now, 62.5 million is an awful lot of money to be paying for a number 10. And especially when we've got an awful lot of 10s in our squad already. You're talking about Bruno, you're talking about Eriksen, you're talking about Mason Mount, you're talking about Ahmad, who's going to be back from injury pretty soon, you're talking about Kobbie Mainoo, you're talking about Garnacho. All of these players are playing in the 10 at the moment at one point or another. I mean, hell, Jesus, even Mazraoui played in the number 10. So going out and spending 62.5 million or potentially a little bit more is a lot of money. Now, we all know that it's only an awful lot of money is if you have to pay it up in one lump sum. Now, if United can spread the cost, let's say we say, look, we'll give you 65 million, but we'll spread it over a 5-year contract. Brilliant. 12.5 million or whatever it may be over a 4 or 5 year deal or 5-year deal. Brilliant. Happy days. And that lessens the blow for Manchester United. But most importantly, what it allows us to do is it allows us to reinvest and improve in the squads in other areas of the team. And that's vitally important as well. It really, really is. So, look, again, I mentioned it a number of weeks ago that if we are to get deals like this done, for 60 plus million, outside of maybe a striker, then I do think that we're going to have to look at paying over the top and breaking it down. Now, over the top, you really don't mind. You don't want to be doing it too much. And I think if Manchester United are going to be doing this over the next couple of years, we've got to get successful and we've got to get into the Champions League and we've got to start generating that revenue. Now, we might get into the Champions League, this season. Hopefully we will. But I do think that, you've got to... We're taking a chance here. We are taking a chance. We really are. By paying so much for somebody that, okay, has Premier League experience and he's scored goals in the Premier League, wants to join Manchester. That's key as well. Wants to join Manchester United. But it is a gamble. It really, really is a gamble. Let's see what everybody else is saying here. Get your comments in, guys. Finn says, after the season we've had, it would be a great lift to get some early deals done. And that's a great point as well. It really is, because, we're talking about potentially... Well, I mean, are we really going to have this announced before the end of the season? Probably not. The players probably not going to want that to happen because, He's currently playing with Wolves, and I know their season is, pretty much coming to an end as well, and they're not going to get relegated, but distractions and so on and so forth. So I don't think we will hear anything before the end of the season, but you would love first day of the transfer window, bang, announced, United sign Cunha. It would be fantastic. And again, I always go back to the Haaland one with City. That was pretty much announced at the end of April, around this time a couple of years ago. So I don't see why we couldn't and shouldn't be getting deals done in and around now. D is in, he says, have we not enough world-class talents from Argentina already? Not in the area that this lad is coming in. We'll get on to him in a moment. Let's see. Dylan says, good thing is he's Amram's number one choice, not second choice, so Amram gets back. Yeah, well, look, it's a collective, and we know... Look, we've known since Amram has come in, and since Ineos have taken over that, it is going to be a collective now. It's going to be manager plus executives on determining who we sign. And that's the right way to do it in my eyes. I do think the manager needs to have a say, but he doesn't need to be the one to identify players and sign whoever he wants. Erik ten Hag done that. Now, Erik ten Hag done that by default, really, because we didn't have the structure in place behind him to identify players, to go out and try and get deals done. And Erik ten Hag, what did he do? He reverted back to what he knows best, and that's players from Ajax, players in the Dutch league, and players that he worked with before. So I don't think managers should have all the say. They should be part of the conversation, and they should have their lists. But ultimately, it should be the collective. And yeah, that's my point. But what's most exciting about Cunha, in my opinion, is the fact that he is already playing in the exact same system that Ruben Amorim plays. Wolves, and we've seen it on the weekend against Wolves. Wolves play 3-4-2-1. That's exactly how they play. And when you look at the teams last Sunday, they were identical in terms of shape and formation and so on. And he plays in that more than anywhere else. He plays in the left of the two number 10s, that inside number 10. However, another positive with Cunha, and one that we forgot to mention, was that he can play in a range of different positions. He can play in the 9, he can play out wide, he can play a little bit deeper. He is really, really good, and his stats are absolutely fantastic. They really are. Like, when you're talking about, the percentiles that we're talking about, I mean, let me just get them up on my screen because I don't want to be giving you false information. But when we're talking about attacking midfielders, wingers, non-penalty goals, 96 percentile. Shots, 90 percentile. It's really, really good. It really, really is. And then when we're talking about, some of the more, progressive plays, build-up plays, so on and so forth. Passes attempted, 98 percentile. Progressive carries, 99 percentile. Progressive passes, 97 percentile. Successful take-ons, 98. And then when we talk about the defensive side of his game, tackles, 95 percentile. Interceptions, 99 percentile. Blocks, 88. Clearances, 69. He ticks a hell of a lot of boxes. He really, really does tick a hell of a lot. And that's down to the fact that he can play in a wide variety of positions across that front line, which is very, very positive. It really, really is. And yeah, look, I think that's why we're seeing Manchester United push so quickly for Matheus Cunha. And why we're probably willing to spend over the odds for a number 10, because he ticks so many boxes, in fairness. Let's see. Jida says we need Cherokee. D says if we're bringing him in, then Garnacho is going, must be, but we need a striker desperately. We'll get on to strikers in a few minutes, absolutely, because we've got some big updates on that as well. Inacio scored for Sporting. Chris will be delighted. He certainly will. Let's see, what else have we got? Give them 44 million and 20% sell-on clause and tell them to take it or leave it. Well, I wouldn't even do that, to be honest with you, D, because 44 million is an awful lot more than 12.5 million. If you can say, look, over 5 years we'll give you 12.5 million a year, then that's a hell of a lot healthier in terms of the books this year. You know what I mean? So we're going to have to get smart about it. We really are. Heard something earlier, but we have to give 90 on instalments from past signings this summer. Yeah, Jim Ratcliffe mentioned that a couple of months ago in his interview, that I think we have to write a check for 90 something million on installments from the past. But yeah, again, I think that's kind of been already written into the balance sheets so far. So I don't think it's a major concern, to be quite honest with you. But I do think United are going to have to sell in the summer, and I do think sales are going to be vitally important, because if we're talking about Garnacho, we're talking about Anthony, Rashford, Sancho, Lindelof is going on a free, Eriksen is going on a free. Are we going to move Casemiro on? Is Delo going to go? Is Luke Shaw going to go? Sales are going to be just as important this summer as buys, and because I don't think we can. A number of different things are going to determine the type of transfer window we have. First and foremost, it's the Europa League and whether we get Champions League football next year. But secondly, it's going to be how many players can we get off the books and how much money can we generate before we can actually go into the transfer market, and it's going to be interesting to see. And we know the league, less risk with Cunha than foreign players, says Finn. Yeah, there you go, absolutely. D says there's 86 million owed on previous signings before we've even recruited this season. Yep, absolutely. Heard Cunha has a bit of an attitude, but nothing Amram can fix. I was getting this thrown at me today on social media, and a bad egg, getting sent off and so on and so forth. He's had one red card in his whole career, I've no problem with that. People were saying the exact same thing about Eric Cantona in 1991, and we know what happened. We know what happened with that, didn't we? Not saying that Matheus Cunha is going to turn out to be Eric Cantona. I hope he does, but sometimes having a couple of mavericks like that in your team isn't a bad thing. It really isn't. D says, if Cunha comes in and scores 20 goals alongside a striker scoring 20, then I couldn't give a monkeys if he's the personality of a brick. Yeah, and look, it's all about return, isn't it? It's all about what they can give in return. And if they don't, return with goals and assists and performances for what we've paid for, then, yeah, I mean, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Yeah, but anyway, guys, moving it on, and we're moving further up the pitch now. Okay, we're moving further up the pitch, and we're going to talk about strikers. Okay, we're going to talk about strikers, and there's only one person to talk about, and it's Victor Osimhen, isn't it? Victor Osimhen to Manchester United. Is it plausible? Is it possible? Is it even on the cards? Well, number of different reports coming out in the last few days, okay? And, I mean, Manchester United haven't shied away from the fact that we are interested in him. And I don't think that's down to United declaring their hand or anything. I just think it's down to the fact that everybody is going to be interested in Victor Osimhen between now and the end of the season. Because, like we said, it's going to be a striker's market this summer. It really is. And I think when we're talking about, who can we potentially get in and who can we, lead the line for us, Victor Osimhen ticks all of the boxes. He absolutely ticks all of the boxes, doesn't he? Now, the Mirror, and first of all, it has come out from African reporters and outlets, and it has also come out from Italian outlets in the last few days that Manchester United have already agreed personal terms with Victor Osimhen. Now, again, I'm going to take that with a little pinch of salt, to be quite honest with you, because we know up until a couple of weeks ago the reports were suggesting that it could be up to 340,000 that he's looking for a week. I think he wants to take home about 200 grand a week after tax. And Manchester United are not going to pay that kind of money. Now, when you see initially the UK-based outlets getting on similar reports, it tends to hold a little bit of validity. And the Mirror have spoken about this. And in fairness to them, I mean, the Mirror is not the most legitimate of sources, of course it's not. But they have been right about an awful lot, going back to maybe the start of Eric Ten Hag's reign at Manchester United. And they've said United are pushing ahead for a 40 million deal to sign Victor Osimhen this summer. Napoli must sell or risk losing him for free next year. And United, limited by financial rules, are confident they can land him well below his market value. And look, I think this is a key takeaway from this. He's got 1 year left on his deal. And Napoli find themselves in a precarious situation now. And we know what happened last summer with him. He went to Galatasaray on loan at the very last moment because his management and his agents and so on and so forth couldn't get him a deal away from Napoli. Now, a lot of that was down to Napoli looking for a lot of money, and a lot of that then as well was, of course, Victor Osimhen looking for a certain salary demands and so on and so forth. But Napoli find themselves in a corner now. He's got 1 year left on his deal, and us as Manchester United fans, we know all about this too well. You know, Pogba leaving for free, coming back for 90 million, leaving for free again. You know, it's happened with so many players over the last decade for Manchester United. And now it's Manchester United's turn to be in a strong position. The only issue here is that, and maybe the one positive that, or the one maybe trump card that Napoli hold, is the fact that there's going to be a hell of a lot of clubs interested in Victor Osimhen. And we've said it on multiple occasions that this summer's transfer window is going to be a striker market. It's going to be a striker market. So Victor Osimhen to Manchester United is by no means a foregone conclusion. Even if he wants to sign for us, even if we want him, even if, you know, the figures match up, somebody can come in and offer more money, and all of a sudden the player is doing that, you know. So, again, look, the fact that Victor Osimhen, by all accounts, is a Manchester United fan, may lend, you know, or may help Manchester United a little bit in terms of their pursuit of him. But I think ultimately we will not know whether we go for Victor Osimhen until the Europa League runs its course for Manchester United this season. I'm absolutely convinced by it. I don't see us having a set trajectory or a set, you know, route that we go down in terms of our pursuit of a number 9 until the season is over and until the Europa League is done for us. Because if it is done for us and we're the winners, then, you know, we're talking about potentially an extra 100 million being available to the club. If not, then we won't have European football for the first time in, I think, a decade. And that hits you in the pocket. And does that mean then you drop back to somebody like a Liam Delap, who we've been linked with already? So I do think there's a lot of parts to play yet in relation to where we go. And I do think it's really, really positive from United. I mean, if you think back, guys, 2 summers ago? Yeah, 2 summers ago. No, 3 summers ago. However long it was when Eric Ten Hag's first season. I mean, do you remember the disarray that Manchester United were in the transfer market? And that was the summer of Frankie de Jong, where we spent the whole summer chasing one man, and we didn't get him. And then Casemiro, Ericsson, yeah, you'll do. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to take that into consideration here as well. We might not get Osimhen, and we might end up with Delap. We might not get Cunha. We might end up with Cherky. You know, we might not get Inacio. We might end up with Brantwaite. Whatever the case may be. But isn't it fantastic that we're starting to see Manchester United being prepared for a summer transfer window for once? It's really, really positive. It is. Now, again, an awful lot has to happen before we know where we're going to be going and what avenue we're going to be going down. But I do think the fact that we're putting things in place and that we're speaking with agents and we're looking to find out what personal terms a certain player might want, and we might be saying, well, maybe would you go with this? Would you do that? It's okay to, it's quite legitimate and legal that United are talking to representatives of Osimhen and Cunha, even though they're currently with other clubs. The clubs that are currently at know they're going to be going in the summer regardless. So it's okay that we're speaking with other clubs. Or not other clubs. We're not speaking with any clubs at the moment. We're speaking with representatives of players at different clubs. And that's okay. And that can be done whenever you want. If we know that, the player is willing to move in the summer, because it's all a chess game. It's all a chess game when it comes to these summer transfer windows. It really, really is. What are you saying in the chat here? What have we got? D says, if they want Garnacho, I'll drive him to Naples myself and deliver him to the front door for a direct swap for Osimhen. Well, again, we spoke about the direct swap, didn't we? I don't think that's going to be something that can happen, because the direct swap means that the pure profit on Garnacho is lost by all accounts. And that means that, and we know that if we can sell Garnacho for 50 million, I think some of the figures being touted on the books is around 110, 120 million that we could potentially spend because he's pure profit. So that money is not to be sniffed at. So I think that any deal for Garnacho to leave Manchester United would be separate to any deal for Osimhen coming to United. I'm convinced by it. I really, really am. But, I mean, if it's time for Garnacho to go, then it's time for him to go, and if Ruben Amorim doesn't see him fitting into his system and he thinks Cunha is better suited to the system, then brilliant, bring it on. I'm all for it. I'm not holding sentimentalities anymore. Do I think Garnacho is going to go on to be a very good footballer? Yes, I do. But is he what Manchester United need currently now to get us back into top four? Has he got the consistency levels? Does he suit the system well enough? Has he got the experience? I think there's question marks over all of them. I really do. Do I want him to be next season integrated and know the system inside out and score 15, 20 goals next season? Yes, that is the ideal scenario for me. But if Ruben Amorim thinks he doesn't fit, it's time to move him on, he's not offering enough, then bye-bye. See you later. I do think Ruben Amorim will have a say in sales just as much as he has a say in the incomings, because he's the manager at the end of the day, and the manager should always have a say in who comes and who goes, in my opinion. Finn says, we need to win the Europa League to have any hope of nabbing these top players. I agree. Now, Cunha, I think, could stand on his own, to be quite honest with you. He does say that, or supposedly, that he is happy to come to Manchester United without Champions League football. But again, I take your point, Finn, 100%. Does that mean that Manchester United can afford him without Champions League football? Probably not. Not at 62.5 million. Does that mean you drop to Cherokee, who's got a buyout clause of about 25 million? Maybe so. So again, tier 1, tier 2, there's options there. And it's going to be interesting to see what we do. If we end up with Cherokee and he's shite, I'll be posting the chairman a toasty turd in the mailbox. I'll sign it for you. SVD says, to be fair, a bit of attitude would do us no harm at this time. I've said that. I've said it in the chat, in the comment section on Instagram. Mavericks. The game doesn't have enough Mavericks anymore. And I do think he is one of them. It's okay to have a little bit of attitude, but have it in the right way, I've no problem with somebody biting back on criticism. No problem. As long as you take the criticism on board and say, well, I'm not going to I'm going to make sure that my performances don't let you criticize me ever again. And I think that's the type of attitude that Cunha has, I genuinely do. Finn says, we'd want about 70 for Garnacho. We wouldn't get 70 for Garnacho, to be honest with you. I mean, when you talk about last summer, or even in January, I think the price being quoted was about 60 million. United were open to doing business in around that figure. Has that gone up since last summer? I don't think so. If I'm being brutally honest, I mean, Garnacho came off the back of an FA Cup final where he scored. I don't think his value has gone up in the last 12 months. I really don't. I would love 70 million for him, but I think United will, anywhere between 50 and 60, I think United are probably going to do business. I think. Fond of Garnacho, but needs to improve his work rate off the ball by 80%. Yeah, I mean, again, the big thing with Garnacho has been decision making, hasn't it? His decision making has been relatively poor throughout. I mean, the first couple of months, first 2 or 3 months that he broke onto the scene was fantastic. You know, he scored some really good goals, but again, he's like anything else. He's like new players that come into a team or young players that come up from the academy. The dust settles after a few months. And, you know, we've even seen it with Dargu. The few games he had before that suspension, we were like, oh, he's brilliant. He's playing really, really, really well. But the dust settles. You plateau a little bit. Maybe you get a little bit comfortable. And then you start finding out what you really like, you know. And look, I think Dargu has had a decent start to his Manchester United career, and shows all the signs of being a very good left wing back. Physicality, pace, speed, power, you know, good cross on the ball, decision making is good, and his defending is good. Consistency now, that's what we're talking about. And Garnacho falls into a similar bracket. I mean, we've got to consider his age here as well. Is he even 20? Is he 20? You know, still a very, very young player. And I do think if he goes to somewhere like Napoli, he will tear it up. He'll absolutely tear it up. He'll either tear it up or he'll end up at Scunthorpe in a few years, you know, on the bag. You know what I mean? That's the kind of levels we're talking about. But I certainly do think that, you know, Garnacho to somewhere like Napoli, or, you know, if he went to an Atletico Madrid or a Borussia Dortmund or somewhere like that, I do think he would have a really, really good career. Is he what we want and need currently in this setup under Ruben Amorim? Probably not. I do think what we should do, if we do sell him, is we need to have first refusal on him for a certain figure. So if we sell him for 50 million to Napoli, we need to have first refusal for the same amount, or maybe 10 million more, for example. So, you know, in 2 years' time, if he goes there and absolutely rips it up, we have the option to buy him back for 60 million before anybody else even comes in. And that's the kind of smart business you do. Like, Man City have that inserted in the lapse contract with Ipswich. If they get relegated and his, you know, release clauses be triggered, Manchester City have the option, or first refusal pretty much on him. These are all smart business moves, you know. And I do think that the current Manchester United board and directors and, you know, transfer committee, whatever you want to call them, INEOS, I do think they're smart enough to have these kind of clauses in deals now. I really do. D says also that bin dipping waffle might not be going to Madrid, so might be still get a shot of the low. You're talking about Trent. Yeah, look, I think Trent will go. You know, I mean, if he stays, he stays. I mean, it doesn't really bother me, to be quite honest with you. But I think why wouldn't he have signed a contract by now? You know, he knows what Salah's getting. He knows what Van Dijk's getting. He knows his own worth. Why wouldn't he have signed by now? You know, the other two guys who, if he was holding off on a contract because he wanted to see what the other two were getting, then that's already done now. So we would hear rumblings of him staying. Why are we talking about that fool anyway? Dargu needs to tidy himself up. Very loose, but plenty of raw talent to work with. Exactly, Finn. Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. And no better manager to refine him like that without harnessing him than Ruben Amorim, in my opinion. You know, we've seen what Ruben Amorim has done at Sporting Lisbon and how he's improved players. You know, you get somebody like Gyökeres in from Coventry and he just, you know, brings him into a system and tells him what he wants from him, but also just gives him the freedom to express himself. And, you know, he's still scoring bucket loads of goals after Ruben Amorim left, you know. Right, guys, want to move it on. And I want to talk about an absolute gem of a young lad that's coming out of River Plate in Argentina, and one that Manchester United have been heavily linked with in the past couple of hours, really. Now, the reports coming out are coming directly from Argentina, and they're coming from Cesar Luis Merlo. Okay? For those of you who don't know who he is basically tier 1. when it comes to he's tier one when it comes to South American journalists, okay? And he has said that Manchester United have shown great interest in Franco Mastantuono, with a view to his possible signing this summer. United are constantly following him and know the only way to sign him is by triggering his €45 million release clause. Okay, so big release clause for a 17-year-old. I mean, huge release clause for a 17-year-old. It's got to be said. Now, doing some research on this guy and just making some notes on him myself. In fairness, he looks the real deal. He's 17 years of age at the moment, attacking midfielder / winger, primarily left-footed, quite heavily left-footed, if I'm being honest, from what I've seen. Strengths: passing, vision, technique, ball control, creativity, first touch, dribbling, football IQ. Some of his weaknesses, areas he probably needs to improve. Again, very one-footed, operates with his weaker right foot. When operating with his weaker right foot. Consistency and efficiency in defensive play. Now, again, that's quite normal for a young attacking player, and aerial duels as well. And again, that's quite normal. But look, style of play and the type of player you would be getting, he's an advanced playmaker in one of them number 10s. He is more suited to a 4-2-3-1, but a 4-2-3-1 is a very adaptable into Amram's formation, which is your 3-4-2-1. And he plays in one of them two number 10s anyway, primarily on the right of the two inside 10s. Advanced playmaker. Even though he's not the strongest physically, he possesses decent body mass, and a lot of reports suggesting he's going to fill out and he's going to really, really bulk up over the next few years. Creative player with excellent technique on the ball, mobility, short dribbling, and good short to mid passing ability. Not electric with pace, but does have good pace at all distances. So he's not a Dan James, but he's also not Harry Maguire. You know what I mean? Very, very, very high football IQ. Good spatial awareness and the ability to use, as they call in South America, la pausa. Put his foot in the ball, slow the game down, and be able to see a pass. Likes to dribble, unpredictable. He likes to play in a free attacking role where he's guaranteed the freedom to roam the pitch. He will not get that in the Premier League. So that would be an area that you're talking about him potentially trying to improve. And again, look, that's a young player coming in, you know, looking at areas that he's got to improve. You know, all of these young types of players need the same kind of attributes built as they go on. Very skillful, progressive carrier and passer, so he's able to progress with the ball. Like we said, dribbler, very able to take on somebody and move. You know, he's a tall chap, big long legs, able to get up the field, go from back to front very, very quickly. Intelligent movement between the lines as well is one of his strong points. He likes to use his trickery and ball skills, such as back heels, nutmegs, feints. We don't want another Anthony, but we don't want to take away his creativeness either. Possesses interesting mid and long range shooting skills with his left foot as well, so he's got a shot on him, in fairness. Superb dribbler with a futsal-esque close control. I mean, doesn't get much better than that. Elegant, silky touch, excellent footwork in tight spaces, which again, when we're talking about playing in one of them number 10 roles in tight spaces, ideal. Well, we talk about, for example, what Kobbie Mainoo did on Thursday night in, you know, edge of the box, tight areas, being able to get a shot off, being able to slip a ball through. He's got all of the attributes for that. So basically, that's what we're talking about there. When we look at footballtalentscout.net, they give a scout rating for every young player coming up through the ranks, and it's obviously out of 10. This guy has got 10 out of 10. And there's very few players that have that ranking on Football Talent Scout.net. They have tipped him as being world-class potential. So Manchester United are being heavily linked with this guy, and he seems to have everything. everything. And I think when we look at that, what we just went through, that is the reason why the only way we're getting this guy is if a 45 million euro release clause is triggered. So, yeah, I mean, everything we've just said there, and the scouting reports and what, you know, what the people in the know say about this guy is that he is world class, or he has the potential to be world class. Yeah, and again, we said, didn't we, a few years ago, that United need to be more proactive in the transfer market when it comes to getting talent and unearthing these gems. Now, this guy is not a player that has completely gone under the radar, and we're the only ones that know about him. Chelsea have been quite strongly linked with him in the past few weeks as well. I mean, would you want to go to Chelsea or Man United? Especially if you're going to probably go into the academy, play some games there. He's not 18 until August, so technically he will not be allowed move to England until August. So this would be a deal that potentially would be done later in the transfer window. But my God, if we pulled off this, I mean, this is probably a guy that is ready to go in maybe as a rotation player in the squad straight away in terms of one of them number 10 roles. Genuinely. When you talk about all of them attributes that we just mentioned there, he holds it all, in fairness to him. Really does. A couple of little snippets to get through, guys, before we finish up. Some reports coming out today around some of the Manchester United players at the moment. Obviously, Rasmus Højlund, supposedly from a number of different outlets suggesting that Rasmus Højlund's price tag by Manchester United this year will be £30 million if we do decide to move him on. Obviously, United want to try and not lose an awful lot on him. He's been here for 2 years, and we spent, what did we spend on him? 70 million, was it? But I think to break even, you're talking about having to sell him on for around that mark as well. We've also had updates from Graham Bailey on Joshua Zirkzee as well. People talking about Joshua Zirkzee and how he fits into Manchester United's plans going forward. Graham Bailey has said that Ruben Amorim and Manchester United are very satisfied with Joshua Zirkzee's first season. United are planning to keep Zirkzee, even though he has attracted interest from elsewhere. And look, I was under no illusions. I didn't think he was going to be going anywhere. Absolutely no way. And I do think he's had a decent enough first season. And it's just a shame he got injured, because he was coming into some real good form, wasn't he, the last couple of weeks. Not real good form, but he was coming into some good form, in fairness. And Chris Wheeler, guys, as well, in the Daily Mail has suggested, again, we spoke about Garnacho already, Chris Wheeler has suggested that Napoli are still heavily interested in Alejandro Garnacho. And as well, another report has said that Antonio Conte, the manager of Napoli, has made Garnacho his number one choice for this summer, and he wants Napoli to sign Garnacho at all costs. So if that is to be believed, then that plays into Manchester United's hands. These two hands right here, look, the ones that count the money, you know, because we need to generate as much money as we possibly can between, you know, the start of the transfer window and the end of it, to allow us to go out and rejig this squad, because we need some rejigging. We really do. But guys, look, we'll leave it there. I do appreciate you all watching. If you haven't already, please do smash a like on the video. It helps the channel out an awful lot. Go check out Man United Daily podcast as well, guys. If you haven't done so already, it's on Spotify and it's on Apple Podcasts as well. Daily Manchester United content, Monday to Friday, 20 minutes or less, all of the morning news. It is in the link of this video as well, and you can find it, like I said, on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. If you are an official channel member, you do get it as part of your official channel member as well. The video goes up every morning on the members only section, so if you do want to have availability to that as well, do click on the link in the description, become an official member, hit the join button down below, check out, there it is right there, Man United Daily. Link is in the description of the video. 20 minutes or less every Monday to Friday of your morning news. And like I said, the members get the video uploaded onto YouTube's members only section as well. So join as an official member if you want to get it that way either. Guys, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow night. Me, Chris, Ben and Oisín for the United Community Channel podcast from 9 o'clock. So make sure you're tuning in for that. Go check out the... all of the socials, they're all linked down below. Subscribe if you're new. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers, flying it at the moment. Really do appreciate all the support lately, guys. It's absolutely fantastic. We have a watch along in the weekend, do we? Yeah, I suppose. Another league game. I only want to do 3 more watch alongs between now and the end of the season, and that's actually not 2 because I'm going to the second. I'm going to the second round of the semi-final in Old Trafford against Athletic Bilbao. So hopefully I'll only be doing 2 more. Well, I only want to do 2 more watch-alongs between now and the end of the season. That's the first leg of the semi-final and then the final. The final. Smash a like in the video. Subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching and I will catch you tomorrow night. Take it easy.